The Philippines rated at medium risk for economic crime and geopolitical vulnerabilities in a political stability index that pointed to a troubling cluster of high-risk countries across South and Southeast Asia. For more on this index, we talked to the man who developed it, Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, Senior Fellow at the Millennium Project. Asanga, welcome to the program. Good to see you. Hi.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, so the Philippines scored 69.2 out of 100 in the inaugural Economic Crime and Geopolitics Index. Essentially, the measure blends corruption levels, the severity of economic crime, public response, and geopolitical pressures to gauge how these forces shape political stability. What is 69.2? And are we in good company?
Well, you're reaching a very, the high mark, which is 70. 70 is basically where the high risk starts from. So Philippines is very close to the high risk mark. So if you look at the 9 high risk countries, 3 of them have gone through the full cycle from public uprising to new governments as well as elections. That is Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So Philippines is quite close to the 70 mark, and you see several other ASEAN countries also. Indonesia, for example, is at a very high risk situation now. So Philippines is reaching there.
So we're actually flashing right now the graphics for the Economic Crime and Geopolitics Index. So you've got CPI 2024, that's the grade, economic crime severity, the public response, and geopolitical influence. So how is this computed, Asanga? Just very curious, are they equal weighting for all? Or is
no,
one heavier than the other?
No, they are not. For example, the economic crime severity is, we measure it by bringing in the anti-money laundering. We also bring in, for example, the corruption scandals in the country. In Sri Lanka, be it like in the first family, or in Bangladesh, the large-scale corruption. So we measure it from corruption scandals. In Philippines, we understand the ghost projects. So we take those in to the economic severity. When it comes to public response, what it means is how angry is the public, how are the public responding for government regulations, as well as how the public is sort of perceiving. Such as in Bangladesh was the Digital Security Act, as well as many acts that's coming from the government and how the public perceives it. So Philippines, you can see, scored 6 in that score. Basically, it's reaching towards a quite a high mark, I would say. So when it comes to Indonesia, is much higher. So in terms of public response. Then the final one, the geopolitics elements, we take in the consideration of the country's location, geographic location, its influence that it's faced by signing, for example, agreements, military agreements. When it comes to Philippines, of course, the South China issue. And so how the regime is also balancing basically the geopolitical influences. So Philippines is at a very high mark in basically geopolitical influence also. There are multiple external pressures that the regime is going through. So we calculated all of this, and we because what we try to sort of obtain is from this risk analysis is that a holistic picture by bringing in corruption, economic crime, as well as the geopolitical influence together. And so that the country, basically all these countries, the governments, it will help the governments, it will help the stakeholders, as well as the investors also.
What great timing for the release of this, considering we are facing our own, the unfolding of the flood control corruption scandal. Just very curious, this index, who is the main beneficiary of this index? Is it government, so they know where they're weak, where they need to put extra effort, what things to work on more? Or is it for investors looking to put in money in these countries and they see, oh my goodness, the Philippines is a medium risk for economic crime and geopolitics? Because if you say it's investors, Vietnam is just like us, also a medium risk, slightly with a lower score of 65.5, but still medium risk. But FDIs in Vietnam have been skyrocketing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct. That's right. So it is actually, the index is good for definitely investors, but again, for government also. I mean, if they see themselves in a high risk or getting close to high risk, it's time that the government looks at these, what are the regulations when it comes to corruption. Have they been transparent? Have they been more accountable? As well as, addressing issues that the youth are, basically protesting in the streets. So it's really important. If you look at the cases of Bangladesh, Nepal, they had majoritarian governments which ignored the risk factors. So it's very clear. And I was there in Nepal about a year before it happened. So there was ignorance from the government side. So the index will help them to identify the risk and work towards basically making it better, and to listen to what's going on by the general public, as well as it's good for the media also. I mean, it's a multi-stakeholder sort of approach, as well as we take field data which is collected in these countries. So in basically a few days' time, I will be in Philippines testing what we have captured. So we want to understand and also give ownership of this data to institutions like independent institutions in these countries who could work on this as well as make this data better. So it's rather than going through the full cycle of basically change of governments to new elections, you can sort of avoid that by sort of understanding where the risk levels are, as well as working towards making your country better.
All right. And final question, of course, this is still in the testing phase, and you're doing this in a network of more than 70 countries. What's the next step? Are you this early? Are you starting to see some points or some details in the index that you think could be further fine-tuned?
Yes, so Millennium Project operates in more than 70 countries, although we are our headquarters in Washington, D.C. But what we try to do is, right now we are on a test phase. We try to improve the data that is being captured and basically give ownership also to each country. Like right now I'm in Thailand, and I've spoken to a few of the institutions as well as people who really want to work with this data, and and they could be the voices in those countries who could talk to the governments as well as talk to their institutional heads to improve their data set.
All right. On that note, Asanga, thank you so much for the insights and the time. Appreciate you sharing firsthand the experience of coming up with this index and what it means for the countries there. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, hopefully when you visit Manila.
Thank you so much.
All right. And before we go, stay updated on the latest news and get access to insightful